With the polls refusing to budge, Rishi Sunak needed to throw the kitchen sink at his LBC phone-in to try and change his fortunes. The Prime Minister faced an hour of taking questions from our fearless listeners and from LBC's Nick Ferrari. And there were more than a few uncomfortable moments as he faced the public, including with this grilling on whether he understood the cost of living crisis despite his wealth.
I'd like to ask you about food banks. So currently we have 3 million people using food banks. In 2010, there were 35 food banks, and today it stands at nearly 1,200. This affects every single person in the UK. I work in the health service. I work with children who are suffering daily. They aren't able to eat. They're expected to go to secondary school, primary school with hardly any food. It affects the health service because we have poorly children who are unable to get the nutrition that they require. How, as a Prime Minister who is richer than the King, can relate to any of our needs and struggles?
Prime Minister.
Sophie, when it comes to food banks, I'm always incredibly grateful to everyone who supports them and make sure that they have the resources they need and the donations and volunteers at them, because they provide a really important service and support to so many vulnerable people across our country.
But what does it
so
say
I'm
about the
grateful
state
to
of the
everyone
country that we have so many now, this explosion to 1,200, Prime Minister?
And I want to get the number down, and that's why this election is about building people's financial security.
But how have we got to this situation now?
And so if you would have seen, and everyone would have seen what I did during the pandemic when we went through a tough time, I made sure that we did provide an enormous amount of support to everyone to get through that, particularly the most vulnerable. That's what you'll get from me. I'll always have people's backs in tough time. And the best way to do that going forward is to have a country and economy where people have...
to 1,200, Prime Minister.
Where people have good jobs, where those jobs are well paid. Well,
the number has gone to 1,200, Prime Minister.
And I'd like to bring the number down.
Well, how will...
I'd like to bring the number down, Nick.
All right. Okay.
So, I mean, you're sighing, but what else would you expect me to say? Right?
Practical measures as to how you bring them down.
Well, that's what I was talking about. The practical measures to help people. The practical measures. Well, can I answer the question? The practical measures to help people are to make sure that they have good jobs, that pay them well, that means and that their taxes are cut so they can keep more of their hard-earned money, and that is the best way to build financial security for people.
Sophie, your reaction to what you heard?
Prime Minister, I think it's an absolute lie that you supported people during COVID. I supported food banks myself, but with a mortgage increase of £700 a month as a health professional, I'm going to struggle to help other people. Right. I don't think that you understand what it's like to be on the shop floor, so to speak. You're richer than the King. I don't believe that you understand how hard it is for people to support food banks.
He also refused to talk about the party's poor poll ratings and whether he'd welcome Nigel Farage into the Tory fold.
If you look at the polls and you look at Reform, with Nigel Farage saying he believes he's now leader of the opposition, how do you respond to that?
Exactly what I just said to Awad, right? There's only going to be one of two Prime Ministers on July 5th. It's Keir Starmer or me, and that's a choice for people.
But why does one poll, actually two polls, say he's ahead of you?
Nick, we can spend the rest of this session talking about polls and process, but I'm interested in talking about the choice for people. When people vote on July 4th, they're not voting based on a set of polls. They're voting based on who they think is the right person to lead our country into the future at a very uncertain time.
Okay.
Right? Nick, I've been on this show so many times with you over the past 2 years, and of course things have been difficult, but what people want to talk about are the issues.
And he faced up too against junior doctor Olivia, who wanted to know why he hadn't made progress on waiting lists and strikes.
So I am a striking junior doctor, as you may remember, and I have dedicated 16 years to my career so far and to my patients. I spoke to you last year, and today I find myself in exactly the same situation. Why do you think we failed to make any progress?
Well, Olivia, first of all,
you spoke to Olivia, if you recall, when you were in here last time, and you said you do recall. Okay, just to remind you, Prime Minister.
Go
ahead.
I mean, I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember that Olivia called.
You hinted that industrial action wasn't helping in trying to get the waiting list down. Just to give you the sort of.
So, Olivia, thanks for your commitment to the NHS, and thanks for all the hard work. And look, it's been frustrating not to have been able to find a resolution with your union, and I very much hope that we can. And we have now found a resolution with, I think, every other part of the NHS workforce. I think we got the news yesterday, as you would have seen, that the SAS doctors also have accepted the government's offer, coming on the back of the consultants accepting the government's offer, coming on the back of the 1 million Agenda for Change NHS workers accepting the government's offer a year ago or so. So look, we found resolution with every other part of the NHS workforce. That's really positive, and I'm grateful to everyone for working with us in a constructive manner. The only part of the workforce we haven't been able to do that with are the junior doctors, and I very much hope if I'm re-elected I can sit down again with your union and find a way through. But as we discussed before, these things have to be done in a way that's fair and affordable, and we've done that everywhere else, and I hope that we can do that with your union representatives too.
Let's get Olivia back in a response, if you would, Olivia. How's the situation changed since you last spoke with the PM?
I mean, I'm not sure what we just said was entirely true, because you're still technically going to be in dispute with nurses. They didn't accept the contract they didn't accept what was offered to them. They just didn't reach the ballots that they needed to continue strike action. And to be honest, I think, speaking to nurses on the shop floor, I think you're going to have that problem in the future if they do reballot. GPs are also currently balloting at the moment. Locally employed doctors haven't had anything yet either. The junior doctors aren't the only people in the workforce that are still in dispute or unhappy, but that is a line that I've definitely heard many times before.
Look, well, the reality is the Agenda for Change workforce settled with the government, and I'm very grateful to them. And I know not everyone in that might have been perfectly happy with the deals, and in these situations I think probably nobody leaves perfectly happy, so I understand that, but that's the reality. Ditto with the consultants and with the specialty SAS doctors. So it really is the junior doctors, and as most people will know, they've asked for a 35% pay rise. I don't think that's reasonable, I don't think that's fair, and I don't want to put up everyone's taxes to pay for it.
The Prime Minister also accused billionaires like the Phones for You founder John Caldwell, who is now backing the Labour Party, of being rich enough to be able to afford tax rises under Keir Starmer.
How significant is that two of Britain's richest men have announced they're backing Sir Keir Starmer, one of whom, John Caldwell, has in the past given £500,000 to the Tory party as recently as 2019. Both he and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are saying Sir Keir Starmer is the future Prime Minister.
As you said, they're two of Britain's richest men. They can probably afford Labour's tax rises, but for tens of millions of people who are working really hard, they can't. Well, I want to cut people's taxes. Right, that's what I'm wanting to do for this country. We've started already by a £900 tax cut for everyone in work. I want to go further if I win this election to give people financial security. And what we've seen from Labour Party just literally yesterday on your own show, Nick, Keir Starmer here, all over the place, can't rule out whacking everyone's council tax up. I'm not going to do that. I want to cut people's taxes at every stage of their life, and that's a choice for everyone at this election.
And finally, he revealed that his two daughters were very excited about the idea of doing national service when faced with this call.
Morning, Prime Minister. My name's Ayagi. I'm 17. I just wanted to ask, why should I have to do national service, and what do I gain from it?
Morning, Ayagi. Thanks for the question. I've got two girls who are a bit younger than you, and I'm excited for them to do national service. I'll tell you, I just met someone literally just at the weekend, actually, who's someone in their 20s, a little bit older than you, and they had done St John's Ambulance, volunteered alongside their studies, and actually that day they had just helped someone who'd had a fall and most likely broken their hip, elderly gentleman, and they were able to help that person get the ambulance there, get them looked after, and that person was obviously incredibly grateful, and they made a real difference to that person. And I was talking to them about that experience, and they were really positive about national service because, that person's experience shows you how powerful it can be. Now, that person had come from not an easy background, and they were saying being able to be part of something, contribute to something in their community, actually, help change their lives, right? And it gave them a sense of purpose and identity. And I think service can do that for you, as well as you saw in that case, learning a really practical set of skills that have helped them and allowed them to help other people.
Are your daughters excited about the possibility, Mr. Sunak?
As I said, they're more excited about that than they were when I announced maths to 18. I can tell you that.
What do you sense they would seek to do? Would they want to do actual...
They're having that debate. I think I've got one of each at the moment.
When you said one of each, what, one to do national service, one to do voluntary work? Is that what you're saying?
Because remember, you'll have a choice here, Aggie. So everyone will have a choice. And actually, a very small number of people will do the military component because it will be competitive and selective. And the vast majority of people will end up doing something more in the civic sector, as I said, like St John's Ambulance, helping elderly people. And as I said, I think it allows you to be part of something bigger than yourself, and that gives you meaning and purpose in life. You'll learn a set of practical skills that you will, I think, that will serve you well. And more generally, as a country, it will contribute to our resilience, which is a good thing too.